Hello, everybody. Welcome to Brunch with Bigfoot, Michigan Rob. I'm your host, BMR. We have a great show in store for you today. I got the Blondes and Booze podcast. We're going to close out the year here with BMR. Talk a little cryptid, a little paranormal talk. If this is your first time here, please subscribe, give a thumbs up, and hit the like button. Share us out. You'll find us on YouTube at Texas Front Porch, and of course, Bigfoot, Michigan Rob. We're also on Odyssey and iHeartRadio, Spreaker, wherever podcasts are found. Also, we're on KPNL Radio out in Oregon, thanks to the lovely Selene for that one. Find us on Facebook at Texas Front Porch. Email us at Cryptid Encounters or beyondbmr@gmail.com. Don't forget to subscribe to Texas Front Porch, Bigfoot, Michigan Rob, and subscribe to the Blondes and Booze podcast while you're at it. If you like and want to help support, the Super Chat is open. The Super Chat is open. Also, long after the show ends, Super Thanks is open. So if you're watching this later and you want to donate, by all means, I appreciate it. But what's appreciated even more is sharing us out and subscribing. Mondays, Texas Front Porch, 7:30 in the East, followed by Tuesdays, Man Beer Variety, 8 o'clock in the East. Beyond BMR, 9 o'clock in the East. Jason McLean does something called Mysterious Library on Untold AM Radio. That's at 10 o'clock in the East. Again, those shows are on Tuesday. Wednesdays, the Serial Papers at 9 in the East, followed up by Jason McLean Questions Everything. That again is on at 10 in the East. Thursdays, right back here, Brunch with Bigfoot, Michigan Rob, 1 o'clock in the East. Tonight's the Blondes and Booze, 9 o'clock in the East. Fridays, you get a little more booze, but a little woo mixed in with the booze. Blondes and the Booze and the woo, 9 in the East. Jessica Jones, Space Out Radio on the weekends. Don't forget to check out Jessica Saturday and Sunday, 10 o'clock in the East. And everything, again, on Texas Front Porch, Bigfoot, Michigan Rob channels. Thank you for that. Fading out the music. And I'm going to get right into it and bring up my lovely guests, Brandi and Krista.
Hey.
Hi, everybody.
How's it going, girls?
It's good. It's a good day. I'm off today, so it's been a good day.
You know, it's always great when you're off.
Yep, for sure. Unfortunately, I had to work Monday, so they let me pick a different day off, so I just took today.
Yeah. Well, Tex always tells me, Rob, you're always off. You know, he goes every day is Friday for Rob.
Right.
You know,
right.
that's Tex's way of I'm not retired. I work every day, but since I sold the bar business, I kind of haven't done nothing for 2 years.
Right.
But hey, right now I'm enjoying it, but I do this. I love doing this, and we had a show on Monday. You girls were on, and a couple other guests, and we did the year ending. We talked a lot about cryptids, and today we'll get into a little bit of cryptid things, and then we want to talk a little bit about the 2022 year in the paranormal world. We'll focus a little bit on that because I think mostly we talked cryptids on Monday. We'll get into that too for everybody, and I'll just start by saying in 2022. When it comes to Bigfoot and Dogman, I did get inundated. I do a 8, 10, 12-minute video on subscriber encounters. If you guys haven't seen that, go check it out on my channel. And so, I got I put out like 20 or 30 emails. People email me. They encounter stories, and many of them are subscribers to, the channels. And so that's what I've been doing. And I started doing the prior year, though. I started doing that a little bit. Nobody was up to it. But I think that with more and more people coming forward and talking about their experiences, certainly this channel isn't the only one that talks about people's encounters. There's many out there. But I feel that a lot of people are getting more open because they know they have a safe place to go with Bigfoot Mr. Rob channel, Texas Front Porch, and now the Blondes and Booze, because what you guys do is paranormal. You guys are getting acclimated with cryptids, and you do have some cryptid encounters or tales that you've heard from your guests. And why do you guys think people are being more open? We can start with whoever.
I personally just think that it's being more accepted than it was, years ago. And same thing, even like back in the day, my grandma was very much a believer in the paranormal, but it was taboo back then. So nobody talked about it. And I think now that TV shows have helped in the last, 10, 15 years, for people to come out and talk about it. And same thing, with the cryptids, UFOs, more stuff's coming out with the government about the UFOs and
Yeah.
excuse me, but people are feeling more comfortable to come out.
Yeah, you hit on pretty much everything that I was going to say. But
Yeah.
like I said, there's more avenues for people to go down to talk about things that have happened to them versus what it was just even a decade ago. So I do believe that is true.
Yeah.
And people like us, we want to hear it. We
Hmm.
want to know. So I mean, it's turning into be a great thing that we're having all these cryptid shows, paranormal shows, and things like that out there to make people feel more comfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was going to ask you guys, I know you guys are paranormal, but you're, again, as I mentioned earlier, you dive into some cryptids. You've had some
Hmm.
conversations on the Blondes and Booze podcast. You spoke some cryptid things.
Hmm.
Over the last, since you've been doing this, I don't know how long you guys have been on air, 6 months, a year. I'm unfamiliar. But what's one of the few stories you got, if any, in the cryptid world that you kind of said, wow, this is really something we want to get into?
Wow. Well, I had an encounter here a couple years
Yeah.
ago. I didn't see it with my eyes, but long story. But and then here just in September, we had another encounter, and Brandi was there and witnessed that one. So again, we didn't see it, but we had something thrown at us, and so now we're kind of like really getting into the cryptid thing. I think. Wouldn't you agree, Brandi?
Yeah, and it's kind of like I've said this before in another show, perhaps, but I grew up with this thing. I was in Michigan, so I lived in Michigan. I was born and raised there, so eh, it's kind of like we hear the stories all growing up, and I've said it before. It's a wonder I'm alive because I did go through, in the woods a bunch as a child.
Mhm.
Me and just another friend or whatever. But it's surprising. But I grew up with that. But when Krista one night we were talking, we were sitting outside watching the skies. Maybe see a little something UFO, or you never know. So
Mhm.
we were just sit out there talking, and she's like, "What do you think about dogmen?" And it just started our whole thing right there. I was like, "Dogmen, really? Dogmen? Let's talk about it. Let's do it." So that's how I got started. Actually, I want to say studying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been studying.
Yeah.
So and that's how that all began.
And actually, funny story on the Dogman thing. So we were talking about it, and Brandy's like, "Yeah, let's go up to Michigan to my family's property. Let's go dogman hunting." And I'm like, "Okay, let's do it." And you know what? Now, after all the stories I've heard, I'm like, "What the hell were we thinking? Thank God we didn't actually go up there and pop a tent and start doing it." We've learned a lot.
Well, since we're talking a little bit about Dogman, I'm going to bring up an encounter stories, a story that I did. One of my favorite ones from 2022 from email that I got from one of the subscribers. And this guy he took a shortcut. I think this I have to recall. I think the state was in Pennsylvania, and the encounter took place. I think it was like 2011 during Christmas time. And so he says, "Hey Rob, here's my story." And now, of course, I'm paraphrasing the entire story because I'm bringing it back from memory. So what he was doing was he was going to his girlfriend's house, and he was running late for the Christmas party. It was first time that he was going to meet her mom and dad. They were new boyfriend girlfriend, so he's already like 10 or 12 minutes late. So, which is always going to be a great impression on the mom and dad, I guess. So he takes a cut through the woods because he knows it's a shortcut, and it was really just a straight 2 mile, 3 mile jaunt through these woods out in Pennsylvania. So as he's in he said he had like a little Honda, one of those smaller economy cars. He's driving on this road, and the road is kind of bumpy and gravelly. So he can't. So he now he's kind of mad because he can't go full speed. His shortcut was not a good idea. So he's looking to the wood line to the out the passenger side, and he thought it was weird. It was not a windy day, and it was Christmas time, but there was some leaves, but it was not full coverage. It was like almost fall. Even in Michigan in December, you guys, I've had leaves where it was not like every tree is not dead. It's still, I don't know, with this whatever's happening with our climate change. I have no idea, but he noticed that the brush was it was just moving like northerly in front of him, was getting bent down, and he's looking, pays no mind. And then as he's traveling, he looks in his rear view mirror and he sees this big wolf on four legs. And it's probably 50 yards in back of him, which is quite a distance. So from 50 yards out, he just said it was massive and it looked like a dog and it was kind of running towards him. Like, I said dog, but he said like a wolf, right? And this thing is gaining speed. So all of a sudden, he sees this four-legged animal get up, and he said to take a double look. It's running on two legs. He says from the distance, I think in the story, he thinks it's at least 7 foot tall, but he's seeing this thing running on two legs. Look, it had a big, oversized wolf's head. Mm-hmm. So now that he is in shock, as I mentioned, the road was crappy. He hits a pothole. Now he says he's probably 3 minutes from exiting the woods to where his girlfriend lived. He hits a pothole. The tire explodes.
Oh, no.
And this thing's on two legs gaining on him. And he's terrified. And he looks into the wood line, or not into the wood line, in back of him, and this thing is now gone, which when he says, holy cow, now he's terrified. First of all, it was a big wolf on four legs, but then when it went upright bipedally, he hits the pothole, blows out the tire. Now it disappears. Now he is frightened. He's sweating. Yeah. He's, again, he can see the edge of the woods would end, where it would turn into more of a rural area where the street was, where his girlfriend lived. And so he's looking. Then all of a sudden, he sees some guy on a bike, an old man on a bike, he says, in back of him, and the guy's pedaling on this dilapidated road. The old man gets to him and offers a hand to fix his tire. So the guy says, oh, yeah, thank you. And he goes, did you happen to see any crazy looking animal? I mean, because this guy, first of all, girls, this guy appears out of nowhere. He sees this wolf, doesn't see any man. Then all of a sudden he looks, there's some guy on a bike. He goes, the guy grins at him. He grins at this guy. And he says, man, this grin was almost as traumatic as seeing this two-legged bipedal wolf running at him. And he grins. He goes, oh, you talking about Dogman?
Wow.
And he goes, well, this guy never heard of Dogman. Mm-hmm. He knew about like Bigfoot and stuff, paranormal stuff, but never, Dogman was not in his vocabulary. He looks at the old man and he goes, Dogman. He goes, oh, yeah, out in these parts, we got him.
Oh, my.
The old man continues. Now, here's where this story really gets strange. The old man helps the guy repair the tire. Again, old man, dilapidated road, bike. And when he says old man, he says, like he looked really disheveled. He was all gray, long hair. So they're working on a tire. They get it on. The old man's in back of him handing the tools. He goes back to thank the old man for the help that he received. When he turns back, shake his hand or whatever, the old man's gone.
That's creepy.
That is creepy. That
Yeah.
So I wonder if maybe it wasn't a dogman. What if it was a werewolf?
possibly.
Yeah, I think I titled my show, that video, Possible Werewolf or Dogman. You decide. Something
Hmm.
like that. It's in the archives. And
Yeah.
now that, I was thinking, and then at the end of my video, I give my little analogy or what my thought is. And I'm with you, Chris, a werewolf,
Hmm.
shapeshifter, right?
Yeah.
Um, that's the thing that creeps me out the most. Bigfoot doesn't scare me. I mean, sure, I had my encounter way back when. The majority of the encounter stories that I get for Bigfoot that I do record, they're usually not that crazy. Yeah,
Right.
I think we're all accustomed to Bigfoot, disappearing in the woods, but this is totally different, you guys. This is a man appears out of nowhere, first of all, on a bike who he never saw,
Right.
and then he helps him. He kind of grins at him, kind of creepily,
Hmm.
helps him repair his tire, goes back to thank him. He's gone. Didn't even hear him get on the bike, drive away, or ride away. Nothing.
Right.
So, we had that on Texas show on Monday. We talk about what are all these things, these strange
Hmm.
things. Is it really a dog man we're looking at? Is it really a Bigfoot?
Sure.
Well, I tell you what, you guys being more in the paranormal world, I'm thinking a shapeshifter of some sort. And I don't know. Maybe this wasn't even a human being, right? Maybe he was an apparition or something paranormal that
Right.
shape shifted, right? I don't know, but outstanding story.
Yeah, that's
It,
crazy. I guess my question is, so, he had his tire issue and then someone come by. I'm sorry. I still don't think I'd be getting out of my car. I'd crack my window like this much, be like, "Hey, go get some cover, jump in or something. I'd be, oh,
I mean, that's a good point. I mean, if the guy, in the story, he describes how scared he is. Almost traumatized.
yeah,
Again, girl. I mean, you guys, if we're all driving, the three of us in a car, we blow a flat, and we see some big wolf to begin with on four legs, all of a sudden start running like a human on two legs. The last thing we're gonna think about is fixing the tire. We're
right.
gonna we're gonna hope this thing don't tear apart the car and eat us, right?
Right.
I'll be running
Exactly.
on the rim the whole way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think, especially when he mentions that he can see the road ahead where the girlfriend lived. So so he does give me a little follow-up email. He goes, "Oh, Rob, I forgot to tell you what happened. I got to the girlfriend's house, and he did not know what to say." So when he got there, I guess he said that, she's looking at him all mad. Now he's like an hour and a half late. The mom and dad are, probably giving
Hmm.
their daughter, wow, great boyfriend. He can't even show up on for Christmas on time.
Right.
So she was getting flack. And then of course he says, "Now, Rob, I did not tell what happened because number one, my girl would have dumped me and the mom and dad probably would have thrown me out of the house." Yeah.
Right.
So he just said, "Hey, met some old guy on the road. He got a flat tire and he helped him." And he ended it at that. Now that's where the email ends. He didn't even elaborate if he eventually told anybody. In fact, I was the first person this guy told. And I just found that for 2022, that was probably the most craziest story
That is
regarding
crazy.
cryptids that I
Yeah,
I
that's a
I
pretty crazy
received.
story. That is
Yeah,
honestly,
that
yeah, that's
you know,
scary.
it is. And when you were telling the story, you were talking about, yeah, he could see him, he's gaining on him, he's behind him, da da
Yes.
da, and then he couldn't see him. I
Yeah.
don't know what scared me more. I know this thing's coming to get me, but then now I can't see it. Where is it? I don't know what would scare
Right.
me more. I don't know. I
Yeah.
mean,
Oh,
I would be just totally terrified.
Yep.
that entire process from the wolf, four legs, two legs, disappears. A man appears on a dilapidated bike on a dilapidated road. According to the description of this fella, shouldn't even have been out riding a bike.
Right.
And it was nighttime. I mean, I think if I recall, it was dusky dawn, so it was kind of twilight, I guess.
Mhm.
And then he says, "Dog man," kind of grins at him, scowls at him, whatever. Turns around, the guy's gone. Yeah, I mean that has every element of,
Mhm.
of creepiness to it.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know. That's a good one. That's hard to top that one.
I
Yeah.
know. I'm sitting here going, yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, because a lot of people that we've talked to, their encounters have not necessarily have happened this year. They've been in years past or whatever, and so it's really hard for us to come up with a better story. I mean, we were briefly talking earlier before we came on the show about a story that Krista and I had both heard. She pointed it out to me, and I was like, "Are you crazy? Did this really happen?" And we can't find anything to say it didn't.
Yeah.
Krista, can you go ahead and tell us the story? I can't remember that man's name.
I don't remember the name either, but it was on one of the Facebook groups, one of the dogman groups, and somebody had posted. A guy was, I don't even know what state it was in, honestly, but
I think it was in Canada.
Okay, yeah, I think you are right on that. Okay, so he was going down the road and seeing like a giant on top of a mountain, and he filmed it, and you could see it, the film. So I guess he was a big TikToker, and so he was posting all of his stuff on TikTok, and he went back a few days to investigate, and then something about he went and he called it the CIA wouldn't let him into the park. Well, it was an open park, didn't know why they made him turn around. And so I guess he kept, posting all these videos on TikTok.
Trying to get into the park. Yeah.
Right. Well, then he had somebody outside his house in the same car that was the CIA guy. And he showed all this on TikTok. And then a whole month goes by, nothing from him, no TikToks, no nothing. And then you can see he's making a video looking off to the side like he's reading or being coerced, saying, it was all fake, that he faked it all. Then he comes back on, what was it, just a few days later, saying it was not faked and that, he may not, be here to talk more about it, blah, 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 blah. Well, come to find out that the man did pass away, but they didn't say what, he died from. And he looked like a fit guy, you wouldn't think, he didn't look sick or anything like that, but they're not saying what he passed away from. So I don't know if that's true. I can't say that was true, but right. I think that was just,
Well, keep in mind though, that this guy on his Instagram, TikTok, he had never posted anything cryptid related, nothing before all this had began.
Right.
And he died a month and a half after he had said, this is not a fake.
Oh,
right.
Wow.
Now, I've tried researching it. I found his obituary. I found his Facebook. Everything that I have found has been cut off since like June. Now, he died in July.
Yeah. Jennifer just said his name was Andrew Dawson, and she's correct on that. Yeah.
Yes. And it was Watchhorn or something like that. His middle name. That's the part that caught me about his name. But let me tell you, for that to be put out there, I mean, is it a fake? I don't know. I mean, they've got it on Google, Instagram, TikTok, newspapers. I can't find anything to say that this is a fake. Because usually Wikipedia will come out and say this is a fake. Yeah. They'll be the first one to be out there, and I haven't seen anything. Right. Nothing.
Me either. I don't know. It's interesting.
It's very interesting. And again, it's almost like if anybody knows me or heard me enough on this show, I believe in what people tell me, right? Mm-hmm. Because who am I to say that they're lying? Who's to say that they just want 15 seconds of fame? I mean, if someone's sending in an email to me for me to post on YouTube and read it, they're not getting anything out of it. You're using a fake name, so they're not getting nothing out of it, right? Mm-hmm. And certainly I'm in a position where I seen something, and my encounter story was, let's face it, it was out there. I saw a Bigfoot look like a human being that turned into a demon. That's stuff that great horror films are made of,
right?
And so for me, I accept everybody. That's one of the cool things about this show, Texas show, is we believe your story. The thing we question is, what was it that you seen? Like this guy on the story I just talked about. I mean, I don't know what that was. Certainly that sounds like something you could find in a fiction book, right? But who am I to call that guy out on it?
Right.
Right. I don't know. I wasn't there. 10 years ago, girls, I would have said, yeah, whatever. That should be in a
Mhm.
book somewhere, right? Like a fiction. I don't think any of this stuff's fake. And of all the stories I get, all the people we have on our interviews, everybody, there's not 100,000 people, a million people. A lot of these stories, they all have commonalities. And for a person to come up with something that matches a lot of other stories that we've had, you got to do a lot of YouTubing, you got to do a lot of reading and recognize all these people that have these same elements in their story.
Yeah.
People don't do that, you guys. They match up for a reason. They match
Right.
up for a reason.
Yeah. Yeah. Like Judy says, it was impressive. And if not for that size, he wouldn't have seen it, period. It's true. I mean, I watched it shows you in the very beginning of him seeing it through
right?
his phone, but
Yes,
yeah.
and it was at such a distance on top of this mountain, but you could see it clearly.
I'll see
And
if I can
because
find that, Rob, and send that to you.
yeah,
Mhm.
because it was
Yeah.
at such a distance and it still looked huge.
Yeah.
So that's why we were leaning more towards giant versus Bigfoot. I
Yeah.
mean, well, we could be wrong, but we're leaning towards that. And it shows a video where he went back the next day and he's like, it is not there. He was in the same
Yeah.
place, taking the video of the same mountain, and there is nothing there.
Yeah.
And there's no way to really get up there. It looked like to me, except by helicopter.
Yeah. I don't know.
And they
It's
did show after that had all happened that he did show things of helicopters flying around and doing all kinds of stuff, and
yeah.
that there was an unknown structure up there. Now, who's to say what it was? But there was something up there after he had spotted this and tried to get into the park.
Yeah.
So, like I said, I don't know. That is a very strange story, and that's a really far stretch to get 15 minutes of fame if you're going to lie about something like that.
Oh,
You're faking your own death.
Right.
yeah,
Yep.
that's so yeah, to fake your own death, you got to have you're not right, but
Right.
I mean,
Right.
I think that's just bad karma on yourself and whoever, so no,
Agreed.
I would not definitely go down that route at all. You know
No.
what I
No.
love most too about a lot of the stories or a lot of sometimes when you were talking to a researcher or experiencer or whatever, I always love the pictures though, where you'll get a picture, let's say they see a big shadow in the woods, whatever it is. It could be anything. So let's call it
Mhm.
phenomenon. You see a picture and there's something there, but 5 minutes, which I do like these pictures, like 5 minutes prior to seeing a shadow that's got the configuration of a cryptid or whatever. The before picture, there's nothing there. The picture that's snapped 10 minutes later, now it's there, and then you go up to that spot and research it, and you look around, and you can tell that there's nothing in that area that casts that shadow. So to me, that and we
Mhm.
talk about proof. What is proof? I don't know, right? But that at least gives you some sort of basis in which to work on. And when I get those pictures or videos, I think those are really cool, which is much
Mhm.
like I think what you guys probably experience when you do your paranormal investigations.
Mhm.
Right. Right.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, because like I said, there's a lot of stuff out there that we're looking at it and we're like, I don't see what you're talking about. I don't see it. That's not saying it wasn't there. We weren't there. We don't know what you're seeing. But in the paranormal world, it's like we got to make sure that you can see it. You know, it has to be right there in your face. Can you see this? If you can't
Mhm.
see it, we're not going to use it.
Right. Yeah.
So I mean, it's a very different
Yeah.
world out there in the paranormal because we have to be absolutely sure that it's there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like we were talking about in this guy's video, there was definitely something there. You can see it.
Mhm. Yeah.
So, but like I said, it's just strange.
Yep. It is.
I'm going to ask you guys. So, as hard it is, like in the cryptid world, everybody, if you show a good picture, it's fake. If you show a blurry picture, let's blob squash, that's nothing. I mean, you get it every day.
Mhm.
Right.
And so I think though, and that's tough. Now, I would think and again, I don't want to step on people's toes or anything because I know you guys have friends in the TV business and stuff that for ghost hunting.
Mhm.
Does it make it harder for you? Because I watch some of these ghost shows, and I'm not saying one way or the other, right? Some of them just seem kind of like, wow, is that real or is that not? And I think some have been proved to be just in it for the money, where some are people and some are like
Mhm.
you guys that are actually, no, this is what you do, and you are
Right.
legitimate, or you, at least you be as honest as you can. And we
Hmm.
all get duped into certain things. I get that. Does that, with so many shows on TV though, do you think that makes it tougher for you guys when you do a show or put out any possible evidence?
Honestly, I do, especially when we do some lives. The TV shows make it look like, there's doors opening and shutting all the time or
Mm,
footsteps all the time. And it's not like that. You know, 75% of the time you're sitting in a dark room by yourself and absolutely nothing is going on. So when we do some lives, we're trying to, get some interaction there. And it doesn't always happen that way. Sometimes it's nothing. So we're live for nothing. People are just watching some lights light up that's not even lighting up. So yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. I've sat in corners and been sleeping at times during investigations. You get tired. Because you're in the dark, you have no lights because for number one, you need to focus in on the dark to see.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've caught myself a couple times storing myself awake. It's like, oh, wait a
Yeah.
minute,
And,
wake up! I'm
and
supposed to be
yeah.
doing something.
And our friends who are on the TV shows, they'll be the first to tell you it's TV. The evidence that they do get is legit, but they don't tell you they're there for 3 months to do 6
well,
episodes.
you
You,
know,
you
you
know, so there's
you
Right.
read
not.
my no, you read my mind. I was gonna say a
Mhm.
1 hour TV show is probably months of
A week.
work
Right.
where you guys are sitting. You might be there 72 hours and 125 hours. It don't matter, not
Mhm.
get anything.
Right.
Not
Oh
even
Absolutely.
hear,
yeah,
not even hear a pin drop,
absolutely.
probably.
Yeah. And
I've
you
been
can,
there.
yeah, and you can go in one building that is so active, and then you go back, the next time, and nothing happens. Nothing's happening. It's hit and miss.
Yeah, or like I said, I've walked into buildings before and sat there all night and going, "Come on, this place ain't haunted. It's not
Hmm.
haunted." Then I'll go in there the next time and go, "Oh, okay. Yeah, well, yeah, definitely, definitely." So,
Yeah,
I mean, it's a hit or miss. It just depends on if they want to come talk to you or they don't.
Absolutely. Yep.
yeah, and I agree with Brown Dorf. Hey, buddy, I still waiting on you to send me those bandana pictures, my friend. But yeah, he says same thing with Bigfoot. Yeah, and again, I just mentioned the paranormal. But again, if you're out there researching Bigfoot or looking,
Hmm.
and but what I always tell people, because they ask me, listen, I've been in the woods a few times looking. I haven't had the time to spend like a week or whatever. Because here's the thing, and I would think this is true for paranormal, and I'll just refer to the woods. If you're in the woods looking for evidence or looking to try to find Bigfoot or whatever,
Hmm.
first of all, you're not going to find, he finds you. That's my opinion, number one. But number two, and I appreciate the weekend warriors. I do. I love it. I would do it myself. But I think though, if you're in the woods, first of all, you can't be on trail. Everyone goes on trail. You got to go off trail several miles in into where nobody wants to go. Number
Hmm.
one. And number two, if you get there on a Friday and you're leaving Sunday because you got to work Monday, you know, you're probably leaving at the wrong time, because a lot of these cryptids, they're warming up to you. They know you're there as soon as you get there. But if
Yeah.
they're even going to give you a shred of a glimpse of them, or a shadow, or a wood knock, or throwing a rock, or whatever, they're not going to do that within your first 6 hours.
Right.
They're going to look at you from a distance. So that 3 days, you're probably leaving Sunday, which was probably the worst day
Hmm.
to leave. So in my opinion, you got to take at least a week, 2 weeks. I know people that go months. I know one
Hmm.
woman, in fact, that goes 2, 3, 4 months. She
Wow.
doesn't shower, she doesn't bathe, and she is a hardcore researcher. She
Yeah.
gets stuff. Now she gets stuff.
Wow.
And I'd
Mhm.
imagine that's the same thing with paranormal investigations.
Hmm.
You're
Yeah.
not going to get nothing spending the weekend in a haunted house, I don't think. Or you might get lucky. I don't know.
Yeah. It's hit and miss, honestly. There's certain places that are a lot of like kind of in reference to like Bigfoot or something, kind of getting to know you. Same thing with ghosts. I can go to the Ray County Museum in Richmond, Missouri, and I know the ghosts there. They know me. They're pretty active. I mean, they answer on command. I can pretty much get them to do anything. But I haven't been there over 50 times, and they know who I am. Now I can go someplace, a private case where I've never been, and we could sit all night and maybe get one little thing.
Yeah.
My friend Gene Hudson's laughs. I'm not a researcher. I don't go looking for anything. I don't have to. It all comes to me. And you know what, Gene? I agree with that 100%. And I got to go visit Gene. I live in Michigan. She lives, I think, in, Gene, if I'm wrong, correct me, Escanaba. And it's funny because last night I was reading some reports in Escanaba. And Gene, that's a highly concentrated area from what I've read in the reports for Bigfoot. And so you're right in the thick of things. So,
yeah.
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah, very true.
You probably wouldn't have to go look for it. It's right there.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of it too depends on we always talk, well, I used to talk about this, which like Jessica or whoever, how open-minded you are. A lot of these, even the paranormal or cryptids, it don't matter. They know what your intentions are, don't they? I mean, they know what,
Absolutely.
if you're, just, let's say you're looking, to be extreme, you're looking to hunt or find one and shoot it. You ain't going to see it. But if you go in there, look with this open mind, start like casting out a positive aura or energy, like, hey, yeah, I'm Joe Blow. I know Sasquatch exists. I'm very intrigued by you guys. Something positive. I mean, that might sound corny, but I think you have to have that type of mental attitude.
Absolutely, you do. It's all about your intentions. And, I can actually even relate that with some of the demonic cases I've done. We go in looking and I can point them out. If it's truly demonic, I know it's there, and they'll hide, they'll run. And very true, because they know what you're there to do. So
they don't want any part of it. They want to keep doing what they're doing without any interruption.
Right.
So
right.
they're gonna hide from you.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But then you have spirits out there that just all they want to do is talk. And it's like all they want to do is communicate and have fun, and as long as their energy keeps up, they keep communicating. Krista and I have both had that, and as long as their energy keeps up, they'll keep talking.
Yeah. Yep.
I was gonna ask you guys too. Like me, I'm really scared of the paranormal. I've had some scary paranormal things happen to me. In fact, you guys, I'm kind of on the fence with this July outing, going to this haunted house, because I think that I've brought stuff home before, and I know we won't get into the protection just yet. But how do you guys really know in your on an investigation whether something is not nefarious, doesn't have bad intentions? Because can't you not talk to a spirit or a ghost that's acting like it's all very nice, humble, but really it's not? It's seeking something else.
Yes, absolutely. And that's where kind of, like, I just know, I get that feeling, and sometimes I can see them, but especially like, and Brandi can attest, we ran into a little demonic being here, 6 weeks ago, and I get dizzy. That's the first thing. I can be around ghosts all day long and I'm fine, and I get real dizzy, and I actually had to grab Brandi because I was going to fall to the ground. I thought I was going to pass out, and it was, come to find out, I nailed it.
Yeah.
So and again, the demonic are I want to stress this, few and far between. That I hadn't encountered one in several years until that one here a few weeks ago.
It's very rare. Very rare. Now, most of the time you're going to run into the grumpy old man.
Yeah, and you just know they also put off an energy of vibration. When it is a human spirit, whether they have good intentions or negative intentions. And even people, who get scratched and they think it's a negative. It may not be something negative. It could be just something that's just trying to get their attention, not meaning to hurt them or scratch them.
But out of frustration, something negative does happen out of their frustration, which is take a child, for instance. They keep trying to call you and you're not paying attention to them because you're talking to somebody else. They're going to come up and hit you.
Right.
Yeah. It's kind of like that. They want your attention, and they'll do whatever it takes sometimes to do that, not meaning to hurt you,
Yeah.
but it does happen.
Their way of letting you
But
know that they are there or whatever.
Right.
right. Most of the time I get my hair pulled, they'll
Me
just
too.
yank on my hair a
Or
lot.
touched a lot.
Yeah.
I wear shorts or leggings or something where the bottoms of my legs are showing, and a lot of times it's your actual, more so for me, and Brandi could probably agree with that. It's your bare skin, that you touch. It's not necessarily, touch your jeans or your shoulder. It's where they can touch bare skin, short sleeve shirt or something like that.
Yeah.
And I've felt that a couple times. Now I'm telling you, and it's not the same every time. Most people think that when you get touched by a ghost that it's going to be ice cold. Well, I've had that, but I've also had where it's it's burning hot.
Mm-hmm.
It's it doesn't mean it's demonic. It just means that's just what the vibration they're putting out, and that's what you're feeling.
Right.
So
Yeah, because I was going to ask you if you guys remember this. I'm sure you do. Like Tex and Randy and Bob, they went to the Haunted Hill House or something, whatever it was, and they sat there. Well, Tex sat in that little closet trying to summons the demon that supposedly was there for the longest time, got nothing, and then they were playing that poker with the ghosts, right? But what I found interesting in that was when Bob, he was standing there with his shirt on, of course, but he felt that smack in his lower back area, and it burnt, and he lifted up his shirt, and this was right when they were playing the cards. I don't know the entire story, so I'm not going to try to bring it up, but he got a smack and a burning sensation, and when they lifted up his shirt, it kind of looked like a half-ass pentagram was formed. Now, it could have just been what we thought we seen. It could have been just so. To me, that wasn't real friendly.
Right. Well, the thing is with that house that they went to, I personally have never been there, but I have heard that there is a demonic presence in that house. Like I said, I don't know to verify that. So, they could be playing with something they don't want to play with.
Yeah, they could be opening a can of worms they can't close.
Yeah.
But anyway, Rob, what I was trying to say is that if you come with us in July, we're there.
And there's nothing demonic there. I've been there. There is nothing demonic there.
No.
And it's a great place. And if anything, just go for the history. You don't have to.
Oh, absolutely.
You don't have to go. The place is so big. There's a big open room that he's got a bunch of like couches and chairs, and a lot of people just sit and mingle in there. Just I'm sure
it'll be fun. It's just that now I'm so creeped out, and I've told you guys a story. I hate to be redundant. People probably haven't heard it. I can't at night though. During the daytime, I got no problems. Like I think Brandi, you posted something on Facebook, like the 10 scariest hauntings or something. It was on Discovery Channel or something. At nighttime, I can't watch these shows. I used to as a kid, and even in my 20s and 30s, I could watch these things all night long. But it seems like when I had my one Bigfoot encounter and I started researching stuff, and now again, when I say this, I always was into, not that I'm that person, I'm not an occult guy or a devil guy, but I do find those shows and those movies fascinating.
Yeah.
But now I cannot watch them anymore because I end up getting nightmares. I think I'm like freaking myself out or something. I just wonder if we see anything. And I think I've seen ghosts. I told you guys when I was younger. I've seen them as now in my 50s, I guess. I can tell that. But I see a lot of things, especially well after my encounter. So I just wonder, I can manifest things. I think I can manifest things now.
I think once you have one encounter with something like that, you're more open to having another encounter of, be it another cryptid experience or a paranormal or even a UFO. That's just my opinion.
I think, I've been told that I believe that.
So
it just opens up it turns on the light bulb, as Krista and I like to say. It turns on your light bulb.
Yeah.
Opens
that third eye.
Yeah.
Maybe that third eye. I don't know. That's another whole nother topic, but
yeah, that's a big one.
So I know this is fact or fiction. So like I told you, I used to watch a lot of demonic shows. Well, first, before I get that question, what's your guys' experiences with the Ouija board?
Mhm. So my experience, I had one when I was a kid growing up, and me and a friend of mine, Kelly, we used to do it all the time, and we never did anything properly. We didn't know anything about it back then. It was a Parker Brothers, and we grew up, and it was in my mom's basement for years in the box, back in the Parker Brothers box. Well, my kids pulled it out, and Kelly and I used to talk to one entity, and I don't remember the name offhand, but years later, my kids brought that out, and I didn't even know they had it out, and they ended up getting the same name, which was kind of interesting. However, I believe it's about your intention. So I don't believe it's the board that's bad. I believe it's number one about your intention, and number two, it definitely needs to be closed properly.
Absolutely.
And back then, I didn't know what I was doing, and fortunately, I never had anything negative happen with using one, as I very well could have, because I had no idea what I was doing back then.
Right.
But I am not scared of a Ouija board. I don't condone people using them, especially kids, teenagers. I think you need to know what you're doing and have the right intention. And
Right. Now, you see, my experience is very different. My mother, my great aunts, they all used to play with these boards. And as a kid, I remember running around in the house, and they're all sitting at the table using one of these. But yet, in that, I learned, how to open up, how to shut it down, how to, just to make sure that everything's okay. So my experience has been very pleasant. I haven't had any issues.
Yeah.
But I do have to say that like in Krista's instance, it could have been a little worse for her.
Yeah.
It very well could have went badly because she didn't know. Krista, why don't you tell us the story about that person is it South Carolina that had got an Ouija board and was playing around with it?
Yeah. So a friend of Brandi and I's called me as a police officer, and a fellow police officer had picked up a board, and they were doing it one night, and I guess one night she had an entity, a hat guy, at her bed. She thought it was a person. She pulled out a gun to shoot it, and it disappeared. So she was carrying the board around in her car. So our friend, I had talked to her, and I told her what she needed to do with the board. She needed to close it. She needed to get rid of it, bury it, put salt, the whole 9 yards, do everything around it. And she didn't. Apparently, she put it in the back in the trunk of an empty police car that nobody had been using. Well, one of the other officers needed that car, popped the trunk, and seen that board back there. So I need to ask him how that has went, because I haven't heard if she got rid of it or not. But I told him she's the one that needed to get rid of it. It was her intention. She's the one that opened it. And then I also told him the car, don't let anybody drive it until at least you pray around it, or do something around it, and
Exactly, get it cleansed or something. I mean, she was playing around with something she had no idea.
Right.
Again, yes, it is a toy. It is a manufactured as a toy. It's your intent.
Yep.
Yeah. So, I mean, according to what you guys are saying, you got Parker Brothers, Milton Bradley, they make board games.
Yep.
What if I went and bought a Monopoly board and had all the little pieces, but my intentions were to summons? So can you really use like anything?
Yes. And that's the thing. This is where I go back into with, I don't think the board is the problem, because a lot of the paranormal equipment, you're still on a level of communicating with something you don't know what's there, and communicating with them. It's just a method of communication, in my opinion. I know there's people out there that don't agree with me on that, but it's all kind of in the same realm.
That's my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's everyone's opinion and what they believe. I know a lot of people in chat are saying that it's a gateway to hell. It's not a toy and things, and I get that. And from your experiences, it's just, and you've been doing this well. It's your intent. It's just like the person got 3 minutes before we got to take a break, but
Mhm.
you go out in the woods with the forest and you're a kid. Because I did not do this. Again, I'm referencing what I've seen on TV. What's your thoughts on these people that don't know what they're doing, and they go out with paint or chalk and they make a big circle, they make a pentagram, and they sit there and they're just trying to get anything to show up. Is that a bad idea?
That's a bad idea. Yeah, I think they could be summoning up something they don't realize. I mean, why would you go out and make a pentagram unless you have bad intentions? I know there's a lot of the pentagrams are part of like the pagan and stuff like that, where they're not bad. So, but kids, they don't know what they're doing. They're going to make the pentagram the way they see it, not the way the good like pagan witches and stuff do.
Right. That is exactly right.
Yeah.
Again, it all has to deal with intent and what you want to do with it.
Yeah, and same thing with paranormal equipment. You're putting yourself out there. Same thing. To me, there's no difference. With when we do ghost hunting, you don't get personal with them. You don't tell them your name. You don't tell them your kids' names. It's more questions, directed towards them. Because if you start getting personal with them, that's a way of inviting them. So if you do have something negative there, you just open the door because you're getting personal with them.
Exactly.
And I never ask them. We do events all the time, and people will say, "Oh, can you touch my hair?" And I'm like, "No, don't be doing that because you are inviting something you don't know to yourself. You don't know what it is."
Exactly. So. It's what we call spiritual warfare or protection. It's wearing our armor, which is completely God. We wear the armor.
Yeah, we're going to finish up with this in the second half because I got a couple other questions for you guys. Everybody on Odyssey and iHeartRadio, you got to switch on over to Bigfoot Mr. Rob channel or Texas Front Porch channel to catch the second half. We have to say goodbye to you. We'll be back in the second half with the booze, Krista and Brandi. Give us 5 minutes.
Yep.
Thanks.
Four minutes to go, folks. 4 minutes. Three minutes. We're almost there. 2-minute warning, guys. 2-minute warning. One minute. 1 minute.
Thanks to everybody for joining Brunch with Bigfoot, Michigan Rob. I've got Brandi and Krista from the Blondes and Booze podcast on. Thank you to My Flock for that great super chat. That's a great way to help support the channel. The super chat is open long after the show. The super thanks is open. A couple quick announcements. Don't forget, you can find these on Texas Front Porch. Please subscribe. Bigfoot, Michigan Rob, please subscribe. And subscribe to the Blondes and Booze podcast. Mondays, Texas Front Porch is at 7:30 in the East. Tuesdays, Van Buren Variety, 8 o'clock in the East. Beyond BMR, 9 o'clock in the East. Jason McLean does something, Untold Mysteries and Libraries, Untold Radio, AM, 10 o'clock in the East. Wednesdays, Serial Papers with Jason McLean, 9 in the East. That same day, Jason McLean Questions Everything, 10 in the East. Thursdays, right back here, Brunch with Bigfoot, Michigan Rob is at 1 o'clock in the East. The Blondes and Booze, they're on Thursday night, 9 in the East. You get a double dose because they come back on Friday at 9 in the East with the Blondes and Booze and the Woo. So please check them out, subscribe to them and all of our platforms across YouTube. And we're going to bring up the ladies here. I got Krista on top this time, Brandi on the bottom, and I don't really know how that sounded. Sorry. I had to say it, I guess. I don't know. It just popped in my head. You know, girls, we were talking about, this is a great show. Thanks for coming on. We were talking about.
Krista, your mic's off. There you are.
We were just talking about some strange, I'm really interested in this paranormal stuff. I want to go just a little bit darker. We're talking about, you can open up things that you're not aware of, especially if you're a novice and you're out there and you're playing games. You don't know what you're summoning.
Yep.
And, I mentioned I hate talking about the devil and demons, but it's still daytime, although it's dark where I'm at right now. Do you think there is a gate to hell?
Yes.
I've seen it. Not per se, but I mean, I've seen the demonic.
Let's get into this a little bit. Since it's where I live, it's only 1:59 p.m., so I'm quite okay.
You're safer now.
I'm safe, yeah. Although the devil comes at any time, I probably would have to say so, right?
They do.
Absolutely. Yeah, it doesn't matter. That's why they say, you can see spirits and have contact with spirits at any time of the day. It doesn't have to be at nighttime.
Right.
Yeah.
We just prefer to do it at nighttime because then we can see shadow people and things like that a lot easier.
Yeah. Lights and stuff, you can use better. See things. So, yep. Put grids up and they come in better.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's get into this a little bit, Krista. You said you've seen one. gate to help her. Why don't we kind of explore that a little bit?
Yeah, this
And
is
Brand.
good. This is a good story. Hers is great.
Okay.
So before I got into demonology, Brandi and I have a friend, and I don't mention his name, but he asks when I do mention his name to call him Anthony Bublé. So Anthony Bublé,
Oh, the Christmas singer? No, I'm just kidding.
yeah. So he lived in a famous demonic house, and made it kind of famous with his story. So after that, he started doing the negative type cases. And I met him, I guess, about 7, 8 years ago. And he had asked me to go on a case with him and told me it was negative. And he said it's definitely something demonic. So Anthony, his wife, myself, and Kathy, a friend of ours, like, we can do this. Let's go do it. Ghosts don't scare me.
Yeah.
And so we go to this house and did a walkthrough, and there wasn't nothing. I mean, it was quiet. I wasn't nothing, not dizzy, nothing. So Kathy and I go outside, and there's a shed behind the house, and we were drawn to it. And we got probably, I would say, within 6-7 feet of that shed, and she and I were charged and knocked to the ground by an unseen force. So we never want to freak out the homeowner. And so I told Kathy, I said, I'm going to stay out here. You go in and let Anthony know that found it, and it's outside. So he come outside and told him where it was. And so he's like, well, I need you to come inside with me. He said, before we go in, he said, I'm picking up something about the BTK killer.
Mm.
And I told him, I said, well, I don't know why, because the BTK killer is still alive. He's in prison, but he's still alive. So just kind of blew that off. Didn't really think much about it. And our friend Anthony, he's one of the best psychic mediums I've ever met in my life, and knows things that just not normal people know. And but anyway, he got the BTK killer. So we go inside, and he told the lady, he said, I'm picking up on the BTK killer, and I'm not too sure why. And she broke down and started crying. She was the last survivor, the only survivor of the BTK killer 20-something years ago. She was a prostitute in Wichita, Kansas. And she survived it. And so that's where the BTK killer came into play. Anyway, so Anthony told me to stand in this hallway, and he was going to call it in through the back door. And he told me, he said, remember, show no fear. And like, okay, I got this. So it took a little bit of coaxing, and he told me not to move until he told me to move. So this entity, it finally came in, and I could feel breath on my face. It was that close. I didn't see it. Ugh. I could feel it. And again, that's when I got real dizzy. I had to grab onto the wall. It was just a hallway, and I grabbed onto the wall because I was going to pass out, but I could feel that breath. And so he told me to move, and he come rushing down, and he grabbed the lady, the homeowner, by her hands, and Anthony just goes into this weird place that I can't describe, helping this lady, and we could see invisible razor blades scratching him, like blood just appearing out of nowhere. We watched the scratches happen to him. It wasn't happening to the lady, but it was to him. So my job when we do these bad cases is I watch him. If I got to bring him out of it, I bring him out of it. And he gives me a sign by his thumb. He puts his thumb down if I need to bring him out of, which I only had to do one time. This particular time, the thumb was up. And so we're praying over them. And again, like his shirt, he had on a whitish colored shirt. You could start seeing blood come through his arms. Just, I'm telling you, it was like an invisible razor blade tearing this guy up. And so when it got over, I mean, like literally you could feel the whole room brighten. It just, the whole atmosphere changed. I mean, it was a dark, dreary house. The boyfriend of the lady, he was a big guy, probably close to 7 foot tall. He was part of the M13 gang member. He had done 20-something years in prison for murder. And had we known that going into it, I kind of would have been a little nervous. So I'm glad I didn't know what they did beforehand, but ended up, it went to show me you don't judge people, because they ended up being two of the nicest people that I ever met. But to make a long story short, we helped her, we helped them. And she even tried out for, I think it was American Idol. It's one of the singing shows. She didn't win, but her life, she got out of the house and she was doing something, and she tried out, and I told her, you need love and light in your house, not dark, dreary. So open your curtains and let some fresh air in, and things like that. And to this day, they're doing great. And it's just, that was a pretty scary one that I witnessed. So
exactly. And she's
not only had scratch marks on him, but he also, he was not even holding a cross, and there was a cross burnt into the palm of his hand. I swear to God, I know this sounds crazy, but that's why I don't judge anybody on their stories, because my story sounds just as crazy as can be. And I 100% on the Holy Bible swear it 100% true. So.
Right. And Chris has been through demonology classes. Basically we call her the specialist when it comes to that.
Yeah.
I'm going through the classes now, and it's not because I'm brave. It's because I'm a chicken. I am a literal chicken. I don't want anything to do with it, but I need the knowledge to know when I walk in somewhere and these things present itself, that I need to go, hey, I'll be right back. I'm going to go get somebody else, because this is not for me. And that's the only reason why I'm studying it. So I have the knowledge to say no.
Yeah.
Well, that is a great point, because, the cliche is, keep your friends close and your enemies closer. And,
Absolutely.
if you're in what you guys do, on a daily basis, weekly, however, if you're really studying the paranormal or into it, you really got to know about, okay, I believe in God, therefore I believe in the devil. And especially in the instance of researchers and investigators, you got to know the enemy, and the enemy is the devil, right? So you really,
Correct.
it's not necessarily saying that you're too out. You guys are, oh my God, they study demonology, they must be into the occult. No, it's, in fact, it's the opposite. You want to know everything you want to know everything about your enemy, so you can conquer it, or at least stay within a distance of it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah, it's to recognize it and go, hey, this is way out of my league. I got to go get somebody else. This is not what I'm going to do here. So you do need to be educated. You do need to be knowledgeable, especially when helping people like Krista and I do. It's we have to know what we're dealing with, and then if we cannot help you, we will find the correct people to help you.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's what we put out there. It's just, but we have to be able to identify, so we can go to these other people and say, hey, this is what we're dealing with. It's just knowledge. You got to have it. Got to have.
And once you do a demonic case, you are marked. It may be 30 years from now, but they're going to wait for you to be in a low place in your life, and they can attack. And it just, so if somebody, people, Jeremy Leonard is who Brandi and I study under. He says all the time, people come to him, I want to be a demonologist. Well, you better think long and hard about it, because they may not come after you, but they may come after your children or your mother or even your pets. So you better think long and hard about, know your beliefs and know where your strengths are, if that's something you really want to do. Because had I known this before I did my very first demonic case, I never would have done it. But now, I figured I did it. I'm marked. I didn't know that at the time. So why not help people?
Yeah, I agree. I agree that we do get marked. As I mentioned, I was told this 5 years ago, while I was having these experiences after my encounter. And again, I got to preface that by saying, though, I've always seen things when I was a kid growing up, but I never thought much. I always attributed it to dreams. But I think that was just something that I wasn't aware of. And then I think when I actually seen a physical being, that probably, wow, just kind of, I guess, sharpened my instincts or whatever, that third eye, like they say, or whatever. And
Yeah.
that's why, and I can look back on these things and wow, that really was like not
Yeah.
what I thought it was.
Yeah.
And does it make sense too? Like, again, I'm just referring just the little knowledge that I have. If you're doing an investigation and it feels cold or you get a wind, I always just or the smell of sulfur. I
Mhm.
attribute sulfur and cold to not a good thing. Is that fair to say?
That is fair to say with the sulfur.
Yeah,
It
not
is
with the cold, but with the
Okay.
sulfur, yes.
with the sulfur, yes. hmm A lot of
So
times
what?
that is a demonic type or negative type being there.
So what is it about sulfur then? It's kind of like that's.
Don't they say it's like the smells of hell?
Yeah,
I was
it's a
going to
smell
ask
of
that.
decay.
Mhm.
It's the smell of decay. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. That's just one of the things they do to put out there that I don't know if it's more like they're like, hey, I'm here. This is the way I'm going to show you I'm here,
hmm
to show a stance of dominance or something, to put that out there. So I mean, that is one of you won't always get that though.
Right.
Like we were talking about earlier, they may be showing themselves as something completely different, something
Mhm.
nice and sweet, and then next thing you know, we're dealing with something completely different. They don't always show you sulfur, but if you do smell sulfur, that is a big sign.
Yeah. And it's not that it is demonic. You still have more tests per se to do to figure out if it's just a nasty human entity or a true demonic entity.
Absolutely. But cold, no. I have went through to where I was touched and it was cold, to where I'm standing there and then I feel a cold breeze and there's nowhere there's a draft, or the temperature just completely drops in a room.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean it's demonic.
hmm Exactly.
Yeah, that makes sense. I knew the sulfur, but I questioned the cold. And we're talking about smells now that we're on that subject. A lot of hunters or maybe even people that are out in the woods. I've had a couple stories come in that I've read. I haven't released any of them, but we've all heard the stories of in the woods and you smell rotting meat
hmm
or decay.
Right.
Now, before I go further, the people they investigated the area. They go, where is this rotting smell coming from? So let's say that they set up a perimeter and they walk out 100 yards at a 30, 60-degree angle. They don't find a dead carcass of a bear, a deer, raccoon. And if certainly that's a big
Nope.
area to cover, it probably should be more closer, because if you can smell it, I mean, you can probably smell it from 100 yards away with the wind. But if you can't find anything, nothing, no decay, no dead animals, nothing, but you still have that stench. And I get this a lot. Do you think that now you're walking on a ground that is maybe you should turn and get away because maybe there's something evil in that area?
Could very well be. Yeah. I
Yeah,
don't
and
think
then
I can
but
follow the smell.
yeah, if I were out in the woods, I would start thinking cryptid. I wouldn't be thinking paranormal at all. I would be thinking cryptid.
Yeah, because you do get smell. Like I've gotten stories about Bigfoot. They emanate an odor.
Right.
But not, of rotting meat. I've heard the rotting meat thing, but I've mostly heard that, though, going back to the first thing we were talking about was the dog man,
hmm
you know. And I think that before I go on to say this, I don't want people to get pissed off, but I think that there's good Bigfoot. I think there's bad Bigfoot. I think there's good dog men, bad dog men, whatever other cryptid you're into.
hmm
I think, just like human beings, right? There's evil humans, there's good humans. So I'm thinking that you hear all these stories about the dog man, and you get the stories of the rotting meat. I don't know. I'm sorry, but I have to associate that with something that's not quite on the up and up.
hmm Yeah, I would agree. I don't know so much.
If there's not a dead car, I'm just talking.
Yeah, because like and I guess maybe you're right. Not that dogmen are good, but I know that like they can eat you at any time. Why don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why are there survivors? Why didn't they eat you? So maybe those are considered the good ones. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
but again, dogman. I don't have Bigfoot figured out, let alone Dogman. But I will say all
Right.
the stories I hear about Dogman, and I've heard many where, like told you the earlier story, but there's also a lot of accounts of a Dogman literally running side by side with somebody's vehicle.
Right.
And I've heard stories they take their claws and they've literally, and I've seen a picture now again, it's what I seen where it was like a big, there's like 3 or 4 just gouged. They gouged down the door with their talons. And I'm sure they're
Yeah.
not nails. They gotta be talons, right? And just deep into the car. And they always look. I get this all the time too. They always look inside the window of someone's car, and it's so impossible. First of all, and they have a snout. Well, if you've got a snout, you really can't smile. But all of a sudden, they can take that mouth, and they can contort it and give you a menacing grin. Again, that's kind of impossible with a
Mhm.
a mammal, right? A creature, a, ma- a flesh and blood living animal.
Mhm.
So that senses, but they never seem to do anything. The only thing I've heard bad about Dogman is the LBL. Some
Mhm.
suggest it could have been Dogman, it could have been a Gugwe, which is another
Right.
subject for another day. But but those are what I hear. I don't hear a lot of them killing people, but just really letting you know, hey, you know
Right.
what? I could get you anytime I want.
Right. Yeah, makes sense. I don't know. So are those considered the good ones?
I'm saying that is a good one because it didn't kill
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. They
It's
could.
the only good one
I,
out there, the ones that
I,
don't
I
get
think
you.
they like to be the Joker of the woods. This is my opinion, based on what I've
Mhm.
heard from other people.
Yeah.
You know, let's I got to hear from either Brandi or each of you. I'd like to hear, because I'm just so enthralled with this paranormal. What is one of the, and again, you've got many of them. If you were to ask me this question, I'd be like, damn, terrible question. But what, and you might have said it already, Krista or Brandi, I don't know. What really, though, has there been anything over the years of investigations that have really made you say, you know what? I think I'm going to do something else. Where you just were just kind of like, man, you really got creeped out. Where you're like, man, I'm dropping this whole nut.
For me, I would think maybe in the beginning when I first started, like I wasn't sure, and to sit in a dark, creepy room, I wouldn't do it by myself. But after understanding that, I feel like if people are good in life, they're good in death type thing. So when I started understanding that they're human beings, I lost my fear. So I've never really had it like, oh, I want to get out of this. Because when you do private cases and you do bring relief and comfort to families, it's 100% worth it. So any doubt you might have had goes away. That's my
That
opinion.
that's a great answer. Helping other people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think mine was kind of like you, BMR, right now. Mine in the very beginning was being in the dark. I was scared of being in the dark, where these things happen. I didn't know how to quite deal with it in the beginning, but after a while, once you start getting into it and learning and figuring out how this all goes, it gets a little bit easier. And after a while, like I said, you'll find me in a corner with my pillow and my blankie sleeping.
Mm-hmm.
It's because I am comfortable now with the situation. But like I said, it was overcoming my own fears in the beginning, which was
Right.
sitting in the dark. That's what it was, is sitting in the dark.
Mm-hmm.
Not of what's in the dark, it's just sitting in the dark. So once I got past that, and then, we're moving on to bigger and better things. And like Krista said, helping families, and it, it just makes it that much easier. It's like you almost go in with little to no fear whatsoever. It's just kind of
Mm-hmm.
like, we're used to this. We know what we got to do. It's like
Got
a
a job
job.
to do. Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, that makes sense. And Krista, you made the point now, Brandi, helping people, that's why I'm doing this today, to help people.
Yep.
Certainly I love doing it. And for me, I guess it's kind of was my calling after having my encounter. Because when I
Mm-hmm.
had my encounter, you guys, I had nowhere to go. I knew about Bigfoot.
Right.
I was always into the horror films and stuff like that, like I mentioned earlier. But for the longest time, I couldn't. I needed an outlet, and then I finally finally found some people that helped me through. Said, man,
Mhm.
you saw something for sure. Then I started going on talk shows and just getting it out, which
Sure.
for me was a burden lifted off my shoulders. I didn't sound like I thought I would sound like a complete idiot, and I did the first time I told it.
Mhm.
Trust me. But then the more and more people that rallied around me, it just made me feel so much better about it, and which is great. And that's what I do. You guys do that,
Mhm.
and I want to get into another one of my favorite topics before we close out today. I've got a show coming up. I'm not going to say who it is yet, but it's going to be in January. It's
Mhm.
going to be on the Beyond the BMR coming up the middle of January, I think. I'm going to have a guest come on talk about life after death experiences.
Mhm.
So I can't wait for that's going to be a cool
That'd
show.
be a good show.
Oh
So
yeah.
I want to hear your guys' opinion. Does it exist? I mean, you hear the stories about person dies on the gurney or in the operating room and they see a beam of light, or
Mhm.
maybe they see the pits of hell, or they see something that's just kind of in between, right?
Right.
Don't know if it's good, don't know if it's bad. So you got one side which is totally positive, one side that's totally negative, and then one side that's kind of like in the middle.
Right.
First of all, do you believe that people do die and come back? I know we've seen all the shows and you can say you believe or not.
Mhm.
Does that happen? Do you think that and maybe God says, no, it's not your time. They put your soul back, or if that's your soul leaving, because I think the devil will take you. I
Yeah.
think if you see flames or feel, I think you're going straight down. He
Mhm.
ain't going to be nice.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering what your thoughts are on that subject.
I 110% believe in life after death, and I believe last year I have a cousin who had a stroke in front of us, and if it wasn't for our third partner, Aaron, he would have died. She actually ended up doing CPR on him, and he said he saw like steps, but the door shut on him. So to me, that I took that as it wasn't his time yet, and so I it's changed his life, and I have no reason to doubt him, and I 110% believe in near death experiences.
Well, I was just going to add to that. In this place that he went through this, there was some bad things happening on this property, and I believe that it wasn't his time. Something else was at work,
Yep,
and it wasn't his time.
I would agree.
Okay, well, I believe that. I believe that
Hmm.
there is life and death. I believe that you can die and come back, and so on and so forth.
Hmm.
And I also believe that there's that in between, area too, where you're kind of, if you believe in certain religions, they say there's what's that
Like purgatory,
uh,
like
yes, where it's
purgatory.
kind of like
I
maybe
think
that
that's
you're
Catholic or something. I
if it's
think.
Catholic. Oh, I am
Mhm.
Catholic, but I don't. Again, I'm not a religious guy. I'm a spiritual guy. I've said this many times. I was brought up Catholic. I went to Catholic school for like 8 years. Church Monday through Friday.
Hmm.
Could not wait for it to end. And I will tell this. I've said this before. I don't really go to church. I did it, done it. I believe in God. Boom. That's where I leave it.
Right.
So purgatory is kind of like I just wonder if that's if you're in between, if you're floating there. I wonder if a lot of these spirits and entities that we come across are actual people that haven't been taken or released, right? They're kind of just floating about, and maybe they're the ones walking the earth
Hmm.
because there's no decision being made on them.
Yeah.
That's very possible.
Hmm.
We talk to many who have passed, and a lot of them are happy where they are, and then there's some that are not, and there's some that they feel that they're trapped. Um, but yeah, it's just hard. It's hard to explain that part. For one, we've never experienced it, so
Right.
it's hard to elaborate on that. But do I believe it? I do absolutely believe it. There's too many stories out there, and too many people have come forward
Hmm.
and said, "Hey, this is what I saw. This is where I was." Some people have saw that their soul floating from their body.
Yeah.
Like I said, there's so many stories. It some of it has to be true.
Yep. I agree.
Well, final question, and this is kind of on the same subject. I was talking to this guy that told me that upon death, I'm not going to say God. I'm going to say a higher power because I'm
Mhm.
not going to get in all that. Before you go anywhere, whether it's heaven, whether it's hell, or the in between, purgatory, whatever, you're given a choice. Don't know. Again, I don't. This is what I was. Someone told me, so just we'll just roll with that. He said you're given a choice of either, if you're a good person, would you like to go to the gates, pearly gates, or would you like to come back as something else? In other words, would you like to come back as anything? And the guy who said anything, you can come back as a butterfly, a bear, or come back into the world as another life form or a different human being, being reborn again and starting life all over. When I heard that, I didn't believe it, thought it was against science fiction or whatever. But again, it goes against that I believe what people say to a degree. I got to thinking, and why not? Why
Mhm.
that might be that we don't know, right? I mean, some of us might. I don't. What do you think about that statement that person told me?
I don't
Oh,
know.
that's a deep question. That's
Yeah,
deep.
I think.
I believe in reincarnation.
Mhm.
I've read a lot of stories about reincarnation, about young children, telling things about someone else
Mhm.
that they have never known, and telling their whole life story, only come to find out that it was written in history, somebody else's history.
Yeah.
Uh, I do believe in reincarnation. I just don't know to the extent. That is a very deep
Right.
subject. It really is.
Yeah, probably too deep, for the last 3 minutes. But I think
Yeah.
this thing that I think we all should tackle because I think that'd be another
Mhm.
great show to do.
I agree.
Krista,
Yes.
your quick thoughts. What
I mean,
reincarnation?
yeah, I 110% believe in reincarnation. I feel like, so I guess this kind of all ties into the metaphysics world too, because I too was raised Catholic. Um, However, I since doing all of this stuff and seeing what I have seen, I believe a lot more than I used to in different things as far as like reincarnation. I believe like we all have spirit guides, and some of our spirit guides, we're actual human beings. So I don't know, I believe in the reincarnation because I too, like Brandi, I've heard of people, kids saying, I think we watched the same show or something because one of them came back as a movie star or something, or was a movie star in their previous life and then came back. So it's all possible. How can these little 3 and 4 year old kids be lying?
Exactly.
About that? They don't know what that is.
Well,
Something weird going on.
the one thing I will
Mm.
say about kids, especially if there's a certain age, I forget what age it is. You guys might know. Again, depending on the age, they do not lie. There's a certain threshold of the child that they don't understand really what right and wrong is, or or I'll
Hmm.
even say even otherwise, they don't know what a lie is. Because kids, if you ask them something before their their mind develops, they don't know what a lie is. So they only really do
Yeah.
speak the truth. I
Hmm.
Mhm.
think,
Yeah. Absolutely. I don't know if it's all, one day we'll all find that out, find all those
Yeah.
answers out.
Yeah.
I
It's
think
just
we're all
such a deep subject. I'm just like, oh
well that
man, I can't even get
it is
started on
deep.
that.
I just it just popped in my head, and now I fully realize we're gonna have to get together and come up with a show for that because that's something that we could
Hmm.
probably talk for days on.
Long time.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
Yes.
it's just not a 1 hour thing. It's something you got to put some time in, look at, talk to people, interview
Absolutely.
people. Because I'm fascinated with all these things.
Me too.
Speaking about fascinating, this is just a great show.
Hmm.
Hey, Brandi and Krista, tell us where we can find you. Because I do it all the time. I'll let you guys verbiate it.
You can find us on YouTube under Blondes and Booze Paranormal Podcast, and then also on Facebook groups, Blondes and Booze, and
And you can also find us on our Texas front porch.
in
Yep.
Texas Front Porch, and we're on Thursday nights and Friday nights. It's Blondes and Booze and the Woo. So Yeah, they can find us, and our shows start at 8 p.m. Central.
Central, correct. And
Yep.
thanks to everybody out in chat. Love you all out in chat. Again, thanks for the super chat by my flock. I appreciate that. Don't forget to subscribe to the Blondes and Booze, or Bigfoot Mr. Rob, to Texas Front Porch, Jason McLean, also the Ciru Papers, and Bob Van Buren Variety. Thanks to everybody in chat. Thanks for coming. And today is, yes, Thursday. So check out the booze tonight and tomorrow. With that being said, I'm going to find Texas' new break, or not his break, his exit thing here. Love y'all. See you later.
See ya.